My fiance, 25 male, recently proposed to me, 23 female. He had been learning how to make rings for a while now, and it made me very happy to learn he made the engagement ring. The stone he used for it was a ruby from a necklace that I'd had since I was 11. The necklace was a gift from an aunt, Rachel, who I was and am still not on very good terms with. Back then, she had been doing some bad things that made our relationship pretty bad. Cause of that, I never cared for the necklace for emotional reasons. I kept the necklace all my life and had discussed with my fiance a few times about how I wanted to do something with it to repurpose it. He later took the ruby and used it for the ring he made me. That made me very happy, and it was really thoughtful of him, since he knew I wanted to do something with it. Plus, it meant he didn't spend a bunch of money on a fancy gemstone. It was great. Nice engagement ring that I love repurposed the ruby, and it didn't cost much. In February, we had our engagement party. I decided to invite my Aunt Rachel because I was feeling very positive about everything, and I wanted to try and get on better terms with her. I was talking with Rachel and her sister, Jessica, and Jessica asked to see my engagement ring. I showed her and told her that my fiance made it. She said the ruby looked familiar, it's a very distinguished heart shape, and asked where my fiance got it. I explained how he repurposed the ruby from the necklace Rachel gave me and explained why. Rachel was glad we were using it for something meaningful to us. Jessica wasn't as enthusiastic and started to ask Rachel questions about where she got it. Soon enough, they were in an argument where it was revealed that Rachel had stolen that necklace from Jessica and then gave it to me. Soon enough, Jessica's husband convinced her to leave, and I was furious at Rachel. The party ended on a sour note, and I hoped that it would be the end of it. Well, the next day I got a call from Jessica demanding I give her the ruby. I don't really want to do that. I get she's upset it was stolen, but it has a lot of meaning to me. My fiance worked really hard to make that ring and did something thoughtful, and I don't want to give that away. I asked her husband about it, and he said that she'd bought the necklace years ago, then put it in a drawer until Rachel took it. I'm confused, because I don't know why Jessica wants it so bad. I keep getting calls from her demanding I give it to her, and I've explained lots of times why I don't want to. I've even offered to pay for it, but she just wants the ruby. My fiance agrees with me on this. I haven't spoken to Rachel since the party, and I'm worried how this will affect my family and my wedding. I'm starting to feel pretty bad. Am I the a-hole? Edit. Just some things I feel I should clear up. 1. I wanted to repurpose the ruby because I like it and it's my birthstone, so I did have a reason to want to repurpose it. 2. Jessica hasn't contacted me in a while, so I'm trying to get in contact with her to talk about everything. 3. I haven't decided what I actually want to do yet. 4. I'm currently not planning on keeping that ruby. 5. Jessica's husband did not give her the necklace. She bought it herself. 6. I do not feel Jessica is under any obligation to let me keep the ring. I just want to try and work out a better solution where we're both happy. Edit 2. I don't understand why she wants the ruby back so badly because her husband told me that she bought it years ago, only to leave it sitting around until it disappeared. He told me that she never even wore it. If it turned out that there was sentimental value in it to her as well, then this would be very different. But so far, she hasn't said anything other than she wants it back. You're the a-hole. I know it really sucks and you didn't know the ruby was stolen. But it was stolen property, and you are definitely the a-hole if you don't give it back now that you know. The fact that Jessica put it away in a drawer and didn't wear it before it was stolen is irrelevant, and definitely isn't proof that it didn't have any meaning to her. That's exactly what you did with the necklace until you brought it out for your boyfriend to repurpose, and you claim it has meaning to you. The ruby belongs to Jessica, and she's made it clear she wants it back. You still have the ring your boyfriend made, and you guys could put a new gem in it. If you kept the ruby, would you be comfortable with having the controversy of this theft follow the ring around, casting a shadow on what should be a beautiful ring and engagement story? You're the a-hole. That stone can be just as sentimental to Jessica as it is to you. You don't know the history or context here. You're simply justifying your want to keep the stone by saying you don't know why Jessica wants it. Your not knowing doesn't really matter. It belonged to Jessica, was stolen, and has value, both monetary and potentially sentimental. Go get that stone taken out and replaced with one that isn't stolen property. No a-hole. Totally understand why you don't want to give the ruby back, but I also understand why your aunt wants her stolen property back. Her not caring for the necklace in the past does not lessen the fact that it is hers. Her calls do seem rude and unprovoked, however. Only a-hole here is Rachel. I hope you and Jessica can work out some sort of compromise. Maybe you can buy her a very similar ruby if possible, or even reset it in the original necklace. A few years ago, I made the worst mistake of my life when I cheated on my wife and got a coworker pregnant. My wife and I were going through a rough patch in our marriage. We had a few issues, but we're working through them, including infertility. Long story short, I knocked up a coworker during a low point in my marriage. After I found out the news, I came clean with my wife. At first, she was understandably heartbroken and angry, but eventually, she took me back and tried to give our marriage a second chance. A few months later, my wife got pregnant and eventually gave birth to our first child, a beautiful and healthy baby girl. Having two daughters only a few months apart, by two different women, was difficult, but I did everything in my power to be a supportive father to both of my daughters, despite the mothers not making it easy for me. The problems began to arise again a year later when my coworker unexpectedly passed away in a car accident, and I took our daughter into my home with my wife and her half-sister. I understand that this living situation isn't ideal and 100% my fault, but my daughter isn't to blame, nor should she feel subjected to different treatment than my other daughter. My wife refuses to allow my other daughter to call her Huyo, mother in my native language, because she's not her biological child. My wife has been mostly kind and loving to my daughter, but she is constantly reminding my daughter that she's not her biological mother and that she should ask her father about who is her real mother. I'm constantly asking my wife to let it go because our daughters are barely 3 years old and can't understand the gravity of the situation yet. When they get older, I will explain the truth to them. But my wife doesn't care and constantly brings up my affair, even though she said she forgave me. Why must my daughter be punished for my sins? Am I the a-hole for asking my wife to just simply let my other daughter call her mother, even though they're not biologically related? You're the a-hole. If your wife doesn't want to be a mother to your other daughter, she doesn't have to be. It's as simple as that. Your wife is right. The girl is not her child. Just leave it be. Stop trying to force it. You cheated on your wife and now are forcing her to be a mom to your affair child and into a role she has said many times over and over she doesn't want to be. And you're wondering if you are the a-hole? Let me think about that. Yes, for duck's sake. Yes, you're the a-hole. Keep it up and you'll be a single daddy of 2. Everyone sucks here. You for cheating. Your wife for treating a toddler as less than when she could simply leave. No one is forcing her to stay. No one is forcing her into anything. She is making a choice and then acting bitter about said choice. So my friend, we'll call her Pat, started dating this guy Eric 3 years ago. He was her boss at her company. Later we found out that the guy was in fact a married man with 3 kids. He was in his early mid-40s. My friend here was 27. I told her that she was crazy for dating a married guy and that it would definitely end badly. A few months later, we hear that he was getting divorced. Being her childhood friend, I did attend her wedding even though I didn't approve of their relationship. Soon after their wedding, they were fighting all the time because her husband's former father-in-law, who was the founder of the company, was planning to appoint the oldest son as the boss. All the stress involved took a toll on her husband's health, and he ended up having a heart attack. She called me crying at 2 a.m., and we took him to the hospital. In the morning, the oldest son, Sam, showed up and went in to check on his father. And that's how I met my boyfriend. Fast forward a year later, Sam and I are madly in love. I've met his siblings, his mother, grandfather, and basically everyone close to him. I was worried about breaking this news to Patricia and worried about her reaction because she was always complaining that Sam was a rich, spoiled brat who manipulates and disrespects his father. He has never acknowledged my friend or said a word to her. She's also 6 months pregnant, and as of late, has been making weird comments about my body. I'm very lean and extremely calorie conscious, which has made me feel like crap about myself. One day she saw me and Sam kissing outside my home and freaked out. She blew up at me really hard, saying that I was betraying her friendship and that I had to break it off with Sam. She said horrible things about him, things like how he is a womanizer and is with different girls every weekend. She also called me a hypocrite and a desperate gold-digging cougar for dating a younger guy. I'm 24 and he turns 23 next month. It got to a point where I lost my cool and lashed out at her, saying that being a desperate cougar is better than being a messed up woman with severe daddy issues who got with an older married guy for financial security. She got really agitated and left my home crying. My other friends are telling me that I'm an a-hole and should have kept my mouth shut because she's hormonal and pregnant. She never had a dad growing up and looked up to my father as a father figure. I know my comments were hurtful, but I was pushed. Am I the a-hole? Everyone sucks here. You both said very hurtful things. She's more of the a-hole here, though. Don't break up with your boyfriend, but break off your friendship. Not the a-hole. Maybe a light everyone sucks here. You could apologize to your friend, but I really want you to consider whether you have a relationship still due to being childhood friends, or if you genuinely enjoy one another as people. You can't just blame absolutely everything on being pregnant, even though being pregnant sucks butt. I say you should talk to her, but don't make excuses or go on the defensive. You aren't in the wrong, and you shouldn't let her make you feel like you are. Consider each other's feelings, be kind, and talk calmly. I know you can work it out in the end. Everyone sucks here. You were doing fine right up until you decided to punch below the belt by bringing up daddy issues when she grew up without a dad, and your dad was a father figure to her. Oof. You admit your comments are hurtful, and then immediately justify them, which says you still think they're okay in context. That's being an a-hole. Our son and daughter-in-law, 26 years old, have been together for 2 years and live together. We've always thought she's a very nice girl, and she seems to make my son happy, so no problem from us. Our son has his own law firm that he's currently trying to get started. We're very proud of him, and we're fortunate enough to help him with a startup loan. Daughter-in-law works a retail job that she's very happy with. Some time ago, husband and I were over at their apartment, and we decided to order some food. Husband and I wanted to pay, and since daughter-in-law were ordering from her phone, we gave her our card so she could draw the money from our account. We thought it goes without saying that this was to draw an amount once, for the lunch. However, daughter-in-law apparently put our card into her Apple Pay and have been using it since. We didn't notice for some months, but recently saw withdrawals we didn't recognize. We had our accountant look into it, and he discovered that 1, daughter-in-law has been using our card on her phone, and that 2, she spent around $17K. We were quite shocked and called her up and asked why the hell she's been using our card. She got very defensive, tries to deny it, and eventually said she was entitled to it. And why do we care since we haven't noticed her use in over 4 months? We told her she needed to pay us back immediately, and we'd report her actions for theft. She apparently doesn't have the money to pay us back. We've gone to our son and he's offered to pay us back, even though he actually cannot afford to. This isn't about the money for us, more about the fact that she'd stolen a huge amount of money. While we are comfortable, and it took us time to notice, we still recognize the seriousness of stealing 17,000 USD. Our son has completely dismissed her behavior and excused it as her being stressed. She's taken no responsibility, and we're honestly wanting to go forward with the police report to teach her consequences for her actions. Would we be the a-holes for doing this? Edit. They aren't married. Referring to her as daughter-in-law is just easier for the sake of storytelling. I work in law enforcement. If you report this to the police, they will take a report and forward charges to the DA. Usually then the credit card cancels the debt portion as fraudulent. If you just choose to sue her civilly, you will still be liable for the debt, and even if you get a judgment, she may not pay it. I wouldn't give her any special pass to avoid criminal charges. Not the a-hole. She doesn't think stealing $17K is an issue, and she's entitled to it? Let the police convince her otherwise. Not the a-hole. The entitlement. I do have to ask, was your son aware that this was happening before you approached him? Also, what was she spending it on? $17K is a hefty and brazen amount to spend in 4 months for someone who is used to retail salary. Our accountant gave us a debrief. She was mostly spending it on big lunch, dinner outings, new clothes, jewelry, and handbags. Our son wasn't aware as far as we knew, and seemed shocked when we told him. I don't know what changed, but he's taken her side afterwards, and they haven't been very communicative since. We've tried reaching out. Today, my mom was hosting a small New Year's Day lunch at our house. I, 25 female, still live in my childhood home. This lunch was planned well in advance, and so was the menu. Important background info is that I recently had a surgery that prohibits me from eating specific foods. My mom knows this, and we even visited the doctor and got advice on what we could make for me to eat instead. We agreed on what we were going to make, and that was it, or so I thought. Yesterday I was preparing dinner, and my mom asked what I was having tomorrow, and I reminded her of what we had agreed. She replied that she can't make the food only for me specifically. She'd have to make enough for everyone, which would be too much effort, and unnecessary since we were already having 5 other main dishes. I reminded her that I cannot eat any of the dishes, so it isn't unnecessary, and that we could just make enough for me. Realistically, it would take 15 to 20 minutes to make a single serving, and we already had all the ingredients on hand. We just had to thaw them. I reminded her our guests were literally my brothers, grandpa, and my brother-in-laws, which are literally family. I offered to make them myself, but she dismissed me, said she was going to figure it out, and left the room. Today I was in the kitchen making breakfast when she comes in and asked me what I was going to have for lunch. I looked at her and asked what she was talking about. She said that she hadn't prepared anything that I can have, nor did she thaw out any chicken or fish for me. I'm really struggling with food right now, and not being able to eat any of my favorite foods. And having all those smells in the kitchen, knowing I had nothing to eat for our New Year family lunch. It's a yearly tradition, really triggered me. I started crying and left the room, and she just rolled her eyes at me. My brother and sister-in-law tried to console me, and we tried to look for places we could order some takeout, but nothing was open. I ended up boiling 2 eggs and tried to sit at the table while everyone was eating. My grandfather didn't know about the situation and asked me, "Why are you just eating eggs? That's not a proper lunch for New Year's." That triggered me again, and I replied that I didn't want to just eat eggs, but my mom didn't care enough to make sure I had something I could eat. Apparently 20 minutes of effort were too much, but going to 4 different supermarkets to find a specific brand of ingredients was not. When they left, I asked my mom why she didn't prepare something for me, or at least let me know so I could prepare something for myself. She just went off on me saying that I embarrassed her in front of our in-laws, and that I should be ashamed for making people think that she's a bad mother. My brother, sister-in-law, and my friends are all on my side. But now she's crying and saying I ruined New Year's for her, and I can't help but feel guilty. So am I the a-hole? Not the a-hole. She is a bad mother. She didn't want to factor in your diet at all, even though it was planned and discussed. Wouldn't even let you make your own meal. What is going on here? Not the a-hole. Your mom sounds emotionally manipulative. Also, you didn't create a scene. You had nothing to eat because she didn't prepare you anything despite promising she would. What were you supposed to do? Eat food that would make you unwell? Not the a-hole. You did all you could from your version of events to avoid this. You would have made it yourself, for yourself. You would have done whatever you needed to in order to eat with everyone. Things can be missed in translation, but from this telling of the story, you're not the a-hole.